So Democrats are now panicking as the Trump campaign goes into full gear. Now, there are many different rumors out there as to how the Biden administration will face Trump in November. It's evident that many Americans are now feeling dismayed by the president's performance throughout his term. There's been wars overseas with Ukraine, with Russia, Israel, and conflict with the Houthis, Hamas, and even Hezbollah. Issues that many speculate has garnered the full support of the White House. Now, there's also the problem within the cost of living here at home. Now, if you go ahead and mix that in with the challenges that people on fixed income like Social Security, SSI, and SSDI continue to face, well, all of this combined makes this more of an uphill battle for the incumbent President Joe Biden. But let's go ahead and start with one of the bigger announcements that we've heard so far. But before I share that with you guys, all I ask is that you take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for always sharing these videos. It definitely helps us to stop corruption. All right, guys. So Nikki Haley just recently dropped out of the Republican presidential race. In an announcement, Haley admitted defeat, but failed to endorse Trump outright. She did, however, say that it's kind of up to the former president to earn the votes of those in their party who did not support him. Okay. Adding to that, she also hopes that Trump would be able to do that. So she says, Trump beat out Haley in 14 out of 15 Republican primary elections. Almost undefeated, but not quite. He's also now set to again clinch the Republican Party's nomination for a third consecutive time. Now, this is despite all of the legal issues that he's currently facing, around 91 criminal charges. But we can't gloss over the fact that Nikki Haley spent more than $114 million only to lose. Now, some critics say that this was a complete waste of money as the former South Carolina governor only won Washington, D.C. and Vermont. It's also worth noting that she did not invest a dollar into her own campaign, but was funded fully by donations. More than 75% of her campaign was funded by large donors, one of which was the co-founder of LinkedIn, Democrat billionaire Reid Hoffman. Now, despite this, Haley says that she has no regrets whatsoever. President Biden commended Haley on her run and says that she exposed Trump for who he is. Critics say that this proves that Haley is more of a Democrat rather than a Republican, but that's a question that's up for debate. So Trump also weighed in on this, and he said that much of Haley's money came from the radical left along with her voters. The former president did invite Haley supporters to back him up in what he calls the greatest movement in U.S. history. He called President Joe Biden as the enemy, saying that the president is literally destroying our country as we speak. Now, even though Trump invited Haley's supporters, President Trump saw it as an opportunity to divide the Republican Party. Biden said that if supporters of Haley don't feel welcomed by Trump, there's more than enough room in the Biden campaign to accommodate them. And in a recent statement, the president admitted that he knows that there is a lot that he can do and that these supporters won't agree on. But on the fundamental issues of preserving American democracy, on standing up for the rule of law, on treating each other with decency and dignity and respect, on preserving NATO and standing up to America's adversaries, Biden hopes that he and these supporters can find some common ground. Some say that it would be easy for him to gain their support given that Haley's supporters also support Democratic policies. So this move from Haley has also ended the primary season, which now opens up the stage for another Trump-Biden rematch this coming November. And while Haley didn't give her endorsement to Trump, someone else who's just as important did. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has officially endorsed and will support President Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential elections. Now, this is a huge deal, especially given the fact that these two individuals, they have not spoken in around 3 years.
CJ, we have already seen former President Trump exert some influence on Washington and how policies are passed. So what do you expect now that he has the endorsement of the Senate Minority Leader?
Well, let's just start with what Mitch McConnell said, because while there had been reporting out that this was something that the McConnell team and the Trump team, as Jonathan Karl and our Rachel Scott reported, were in talks for months, this is pretty significant. It's still a bombshell dropping because Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump had that very public break after McConnell said that Joe Biden was the legitimate president, and then certainly after the January 6th attack on the Capitol, where Mitch McConnell gave this speech where he excoriated Trump on the Senate floor and said that he was directly responsible for the Capitol attack. He didn't vote to impeach Trump in that second impeachment trial, but he blasted him in that speech on the floor. So these are Mitch McConnell's words in a statement that our Jonathan Karl has just put out. Quote, "It is abundantly clear that former President Trump has earned the requisite support of Republican voters to be our nominee for President of the United States." He goes on to say this, and this is interesting. It should come as no surprise that our nominee, he will have our support during his presidency. We work together to accomplish great things for the American people.
But seeing that Trump is now obviously going to represent their party, Mitch McConnell said that it should be no surprise that he's going to give him his full support. The announcement also came after lengthy conversations between Chris LaCivita and Josh Holmes, each representing Trump and Mitch McConnell respectively. They're working to open up a line of communication between the two so that they can get on the same page about the U.S. Senate races for this year. All of this is looking pretty good for Trump as he's picking up steam for November. But obviously, this is not good news for President Joe Biden. It also doesn't help that he looks to be weaker in the polls compared to like 4 years ago. He's also trailing Trump in the polls of several battleground states, showing that his message is not reaching swing voters at all. Now, many Democrats were under the impression that Trump's legal cases would basically bury him for the 2024 elections. However, it does seem to have bolstered his image as it's shown that he's the underdog in this fight. In fact, Trump is leading Biden in some very critical states. States like Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, and Wisconsin. So a recent News Morning Consult poll showed that 48% of voters in these areas would actually support Trump compared to 43% for President Biden. And like I said, Democrats are very worried about this year's elections. Senator Peter Welch, he went on record saying that these poll numbers, they are very concerning. He's also concerned about the coverage of Biden's age instead of his policies. But he was confident that once the president gets out there and talks, he can show that his intellect and acuity can do the job. I don't know if I'm convinced on that. Now, some critics feel as if that might actually hinder his campaign rather than help it. President Joe Biden is hounded by the damning report of special counsel Robert Hur and how he can't be charged for the handling of classified documents. Hur said that Biden is an old man with very poor memory. Very poor. It also doesn't help that he's been kept scarce by his team to the press. Why are they hiding him? Welsh admitted that saying no to the Super Bowl interview was a massive mistake. But there seems to be a possible way out for Democrats at this point. They can swerve the people and replace President Biden with somebody else. They can also go with Kamala Harris, although I'm not really sure if she has any chance at going up against Trump. Or they can go and try and get Hillary Clinton back on board. Clinton has supported President Biden throughout his recent campaign, so it might make sense for her to replace him. But there is another option that many experts are predicting that Democrats will take. The Biden campaign may use its campaign cash to just bury Trump in this race. We've already heard Biden supporters pledge millions upon millions of dollars to support him. You got a couple of pro-Biden super PACs like Future Forward and American Bridge who have committed to spend on ads for President Biden. Future Forward committed $250 million, while American Bridge committed $200 million. Now, to date, we've heard that supporters of Biden, they're willing to shell out around $700 million just to help defeat Trump on November. We also can't forget about how they're probably going to use mainstream media to continue to attack Trump. We should expect the term insurrectionist to be repeated thousands of times until the end of the year. Some experts believe that we could even see the repeat of the Russia lies that we've been provided back in 2020. And of course, how could we forget about the entire situation where they tried to say that Trump was trying to steal the elections back then? Analysts say that if Trump wins, then critics and many Democratic lawmakers, they may just say that, he's finally succeeded in stealing the presidency. But what do you guys think about all this? Now, as far as I know, I'm going to continue to keep you guys informed. But before I go, I just want to thank you all for liking these videos. Thank you for sharing these videos, and I'll see you on the next one.